Easy. There we go. All right, there's a fight going on. Utility truck came down the road, scared the donkeys. Now there's a fight going on. Hey everyone, this is Andrew at Plainview Farm, and I want to show you something. No, it's not how far behind I am on mowing pastures. What I want to show you is just right up here. We've got to kind of step around some fence and hopefully not get shocked. All right, here's one spot. And just in case you were wondering, that is a real sound effect. No AI here. And another one. We're almost there. Right here it is. This is what I wanted to show you. This is the pond that I cleaned out last fall with my Farmall M tractor. Here it is. It's, the first part of August, and this pond is full of water. One of the things I've tried to do over the last few months is take pictures at different points of this pond, try to get an idea about where the water line is, and I'll try to remember to post those photos here on the screen somewhere. So this pond hasn't held water in quite some time. One of the issues that we had was that there was a lot of stuff growing on the pond bank or pond dam over here behind me, and there's still quite a bit of stuff growing over there that I haven't removed yet. But a good portion of it was on the front side, and then this biggest part of the dam, which is right in here. I think you should be able to see that okay, where I'm pointing. And whenever I cleaned out the pond, I tried to remove as much of that as I could. There were still, some roots in there, but I brought the cattle in, the goats, I brought livestock, didn't bring the pigs in, at least not yet, because I wanted to give the cows an opportunity to try to seal up this pond, or at least, have an effect, kind of get the ball rolling, to see what they could do. I've known people that have used cattle to seal ponds before, and it's worked just fine. And so far, it seems to have worked for me. The pond is staying at a fairly high level. We haven't had rain in a little while, or at least any kind of substantial rainfall. This has been one of those unusual years. We've had a great deal of rain, so it's kind of hard to say, how the pond will do in a dry year. But this has been a wet year, and the pond has held, which that makes sense. But like I said, we've gone a pretty good little stretch here without having any kind of rain that amounted to much of anything, and the pond is still holding water. So I want to show you right over here one of the things that has me encouraged, and it's this right here. The water level has stayed up into these rocks, into this rock pile on this side of the pond, and most of the spring it didn't do that before the cows were in here. The late winter, the really early part of the spring, it wasn't staying up here. It would fill up to this point whenever we had a substantial rain, and then water level would slowly drop. Well, since the cows have had access to the pond, it's been staying right up here where these rocks are. And the spillway on this pond is right over there. I don't know if you can see that exposed dirt over there, but that's the spillway. Whenever it gets too full, water runs out right there and runs on around the pond dam and then down the hill. But like I said, I am very, very encouraged to see this pond holding this much water. It's really exciting. My son is really excited about it. He wants to put some fish in here. I'm not quite ready to say that it is that it's going to continue to hold water, just simply because I'm kind of cautious. I hate to spend a bunch of money on some fish and then the pond leak all the water out and go dry. But it has definitely been a long process. I honestly wasn't sure if it was something I could do with that old tractor or not. I still have these large dirt piles right here that I've got to do something with, and I actually do have a plan for them once I can finally get around to it. There's an old trench silo up there next to the house that I want to fill in. Either way, the point was, it's really exciting to be in August and the pond still be full of water. So one other thing I want to do here in this video is tell you a story. And this story was actually specifically requested by one of our longtime subscribers. So we have 2 miniature donkeys on the farm. These aren't miniature donkeys, these are cows. Anyway, I'm sure you know that. But we have 2 miniature donkeys here on the farm. That is Charles, and that is Bella. And the cows over there are gonna make some noise while I'm trying to do this, of course. But again, that's Charles, and that is Bella. These 2 donkeys are more like pets, and we have raised one colt out of the pair. I actually sold him to my boss, who raises sheep, and cows are gonna make all kinds of noise. Okay, so like I said, I sold the colt to my boss to help guard his sheep. So the way Charles and Bella ended up on the farm here is kind of a funny story, or at least it is to me. I really never had any intention to own one donkey, let alone a pair of them. I'm not really a horse person. My kids, especially my oldest daughter, wants a horse, or at least one time has wanted a horse so bad she couldn't stand it. I had a horse whenever I was a kid, whenever I was a teenager, been around them. I just don't care for them. You know, I know there's a lot of horse people out there that love them, but you know, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or offend anyone. I don't care for them. And with that being said, any donkeys that I've ever been around, kind of a pain in the neck. They weren't very friendly. They were, well, irritating, to say the least. You know, they would run you out of the pasture. They weren't friendly at all. But Charles and Bella, they're actually good donkeys. They were raised around children, and they've been around kids their whole life. They've been around people their whole lives, and they've been loved on and treated like pets. I still am nervous about whenever they turn their hind end toward me. I really don't want to get kicked by one. I think she's trying to keep Charles from stealing her rub down here. So, as I was saying, easy, you watch it. The last thing I want to do is end up refereeing a fight between them. But as I was saying, they've been around people their whole lives, and they're good, they're tame. But as I mentioned to someone recently, donkeys are kind of funny in that they're like cats, in my experience. Wait for the cow to be quiet. As I was saying, they're kind of like cats. They make you earn every bit of affection they give you. You know, donkeys, they have this attitude, you know, of what have you done for me lately? They don't give away anything for free. Hey, easy. There we go. All right, there's a fight going on. Utility truck came down the road, scared the donkeys. Now there's a fight going on. So as I was saying, I had an uncle who has since passed that called me up, saw me at different family functions, and said, "Hey, I've got something for you. Stop by the house sometime." And it's one of those things, you know, I think that happens a lot of time in life. You bump into someone, you talk to them, and they say, "Oh, stop by and see me." And you think, "Okay, I need to do that." And you know, time goes on and you never do. Well, like I said, we'd be together at family functions and he'd say, "Come by the house, I've got something for you." And I'd say, "Oh yeah, I'll definitely do that." You know, and like I said, I didn't get around to it, at least for some time. Well, And then what he did is he pulled a trick on me. He called my mother and told my mother that I'm supposed to stop by and see him, but I haven't yet. So my mom calls me and says, hey, you know, your uncle wants to see you. You need to go by and see him. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll do that. So I stopped by his house and he told me, he said, I have a gift for your kids, which I've got 4 children. So I said, okay, what have you got? And he said, well, it's just right out here. He said, come with me. So we walk out of the house, we go around back in the back. He had a little spot back there where he kept all of his animals, and Charles and Bella are standing there. He said, I want to give your kids these 2 donkeys. Now, of course, my first question was, why? And he told me that, you know, well, these donkeys, they were around for his grandkids, and his grandkids played with them, you know, made pets out of them, and his grandkids have now grown and they're not really interested in them anymore, and so they need to be around kids because that's what they're used to, and they just need somebody to love on them. So I had my family with me when we went to see him, so of course my kids heard all of this and they were just ecstatic, you know, the idea of getting 2 donkeys. So ultimately I did agree to take them. That's why they're here on the farm, because my thought was, well, they'll be good for goats. He raised goats and had chickens and ducks and geese and all those kinds of things, and he had the donkeys out there, and I assumed they protected them. So I thought, well, you know, I've got goats, or gonna have goats again, and cattle, and so, you know, the donkeys, they'll be perfect for that job, right? I've got the perfect job for them. So we brought these donkeys home, turned them out, and they began to make themselves at home. And I started to do some research into these donkeys, and I quickly discovered that they are relatively long-lived. I don't know how old they are, but I'm guessing they're not quite halfway through their life. I think Bella's trying to pick a fight with Charles here. She keeps trying to get situated here. There's some way she's wanting us separate. I don't know what she's doing, but anyway. So I figured that they are probably only about halfway through their lives. So my expectation is that these donkeys are going to be around for a long time. Now, like I said before, we have raised 1 colt out of them. Unfortunately, Bella did have a second colt early this spring, and she should not have. For some reason, something caused her to go into labor very prematurely, and she did deliver a foal that was not fully developed. You know, that, like I said, I'm not exactly sure what caused that. I've done research, and it seems like there's any number of things that can cause that kind of thing to happen. But I had planned in the past to make a video trimming the hooves of these donkeys, learning how to trim the hooves of these donkeys. I've had an incredibly difficult time finding a farrier that would do that, so it's kind of been one of those learn as you go kind of processes. I still don't know much about donkeys, and so that's why I hesitate to make a whole lot of videos about them. So if you've watched very many videos on the channel, I'm sure you've heard Charles laughing at me at other times. That's what I call it. I'd say he's laughing at me because it always seems to be when something goes wrong that he'll decide to start getting loud. And so, you know, I accuse him of laughing at me all the time. So these donkeys are kind of the outcasts on the farm in a sense, because they're not really, I hate to say they're not producing anything, because they do. They work. They'll chase dogs out of the field. They watch out. You know, they are guardians. They're, you know, livestock guardian animals, if you want to call them that. So they do, you know, in my belief, they earn their keep. And I also, I want to keep them around because of my uncle. You know, he gave them to my kids, and it's kind of a memory, you know, one of those things that we have, you know, about him. We miss him, but you know, we've got Charles and Bella to remind us of how much he really did care about his family and you know, that kind of thing. So maybe the story was a little more sentimental than it was funny, but I still think it's a good one, and I am going to get around to eventually making a video about trimming their hooves once I feel confident enough to put it out there for everyone to see. So that's going to be it for this video. As always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Won't we, Bella?